was 99 months and 13 days, it comes to 1,226 months and 13 days. Thus, there is difference of opinion among the scholars with regard to the rule of Bani Umayyah. So, the 1,000-month rule of Bani Umayyah is not a historical reality that it should be taken as the only connotation of Alpha Sharan 1,000 months of Surah Al-Qadr. 2. Morals are either absolute or relative. Regarding this, Ostad Murtaza Mutahari says in his book Glimpse into the Life of the Prophet, from the Holy Prophet to Imam Hassan al-Askari, all the religious leaders refuted the principles of false ethics because such principles have to be refuted under all circumstances. Those who say that ethics are relative, what is the value of ethics of deception for them? Practically all the politicians of the world resort to deception. For some politicians, all their politics is based on deception and fraud, whereas some politicians employ deception once in a while. They say that in politics, ethics are meaningless. A politician makes a promise or takes an oath, but he does not fulfill his promise or oath till there is some personal benefit for him. As soon as his goal is achieved, he breaks his promise. According to them, what is a promise, if it is fulfilled? I have seen some extracts from the book by Churchill, in which he has written about his views after the Second World War, and which were published in Iranian newspapers in parts. In that book, after the mention of the Allies' attack on Iran, Churchill says, "We had made a promise to the Iranians, and according to that promise, we should not have done like this." Single quote. Then he himself says, "These promises and their fulfillment are nice on a small scale. When two persons promise something to each other, they must fulfill this promise. But in politics, when it is the question of the interests of a nation, ethics are useless." From this aspect, I cannot ignore the interests of Great Britain and say that breaking a promise made to a country is against ethics. Such things are not right in a broader view. This same deception is seen in the politics of Muawiyah. The peculiarity that distinguishes Imam Ali from other politicians is that he never resorted to deception even if he had to sacrifice the kingdom. Imam Ali was faithful to the highest principles of morality. He used to say, "The aim of my government is to safeguard those principles. Safeguarding truth, trust, fulfillment of promises etc. and I have become a caliph for this only. How can I break those principles?" 3. Marwan Haimar put Ibrahim in the prison. He was killed in this prison or poisoned to death. 4. Tariq Kamil, Ibn Athir, Volume 4, pg.340. 5. Previously, when Muawiyah had gained control over the access to water, he had stopped the supply to Imam's forces. 6. Tariq Kamil, Volume 1, pg.34. 7. Khorasan is a word of Pahlavi language. It means the land of the east or the land where the sun rises. In the ancient times, it was known as Greater Khorasan. The boundaries of Greater Khorasan included the modern Iranian cities of Nishapur, Tus, Mashhad and the Afghan cities of Herat, Balkh, Kabul and Ghazni, cities of Merv and Sanjan, which are at present in Turkmenistan, Samarkand and Bukhara, which are presently in Uzbekistan, Khujand and Panjikent, which are presently in Tajikistan, and Iranian, Afghani and Pakistani Baluchistan. There were two small towns at the location of present Mashhad Muqaddas. One was Sinbad, where Imam Rida is buried, and the other town was Nagan, which is still known as the locality of Nagan, and it is situated at the end of Mashhad Highway. 8. In the book Baluchi Hisab Nisab Ki Nazma, which is the oldest source of Baluchi history, Justice Mir Kuda Bash Mari says, "We are followers of Ali. Our religion and faith are safe and strong. We have come from Aleppo. We have always fought against the followers of Yazid. After the tragedy of Karbala, we migrated to Bampur, Sistan and present Baluchistan." Justice Mir Kuda Bash Mari, page 93, published by Nisid Traders, Quetta. Commenting on the above book, Aga Mir Nasir Ahmed Zai says, "These verses were written by the 15th century Baluchi poets referring to the martyrdom of Imam Hussein. These verses prove that the Baluchis are followers of Ali and his descendants." Tariq-e-Baluch Aur Baluchistan. pg. 76-77. Khan of Kulit, Mir Ahmed Yar Khan writes, "The original home of the Baluch was Aleppo in Syria. Due to their support for the Al-Bayt, in the Battle of Karbala. The Baluch people became the target of hatred and enmity of the Umayyad rulers. Mir Ahmed Yar Khan, Muktasir. Tariq-e Baluch, published by Iwan-e Kulit, Quetta. 9. Al-Iqd al-Farid, Volume I, pg. 41. 10. Makatalit Talibayan, Abu al-Faraj Isfahani, pg. 206. 11. Volume 3, pg. 31. 12. pg. 74. 13. pg. 74. 14. Indwa Joshan Kabir Allah is called the joiner of bones. 15. pg. 76. 16. Imam Ali ibn Musa was given the title of Ar Rida by Mamun when the former agreed to become the heir apparent. Even the Holy Prophet was given the titles of Sadiq and Amin by the polytheists of Mecca. 17. As a result of the directives that Imam had given to his Shias to remain quiet and not rebel against Bani Abbas they had avoided revolting against Bani Umayya, Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq had the opportunity to propagate the Shia faith. All those traditions came to public view, whose chain of narrators goes thus. I relate this tradition from my father, Muhammad ibn Ali, from his father, Ali ibn al-Husayn, from his father Husayn ibn Ali, from his father Ali ibn Abi Talib, from the Messenger of Allah from Jibreel, who narrated it from Allah the Mighty and Sublime. Due to these efforts of Imam Ja'far Sadiq, the Shia faith became known as Ja'fari faith. 18. Abi Faraz, Shar Shafia, pg. 171, Excellences of the family of the Prophet and the defects of Bani Abbas. 19. Al-Iqd al-Farid, Volume 5, pg. 159, 1953 edition. 20. Bahar al-Anwar, Volume 11, 21. Shar Shafia, pg. 559, 22. Tariq Ush Shia, pg. 46, quoted from Sawaiq al-Murika, Ibn Hajar al-Maki, Nur al-Absar and Isafor Raghibin of Shiblanji. 23. Mahdi told Imam Musa al-Kazim that the people say that wine is not prohibited by the Holy Quran. The Imam said, that wine is declared to be an itham sin in the following verse. They ask you about intoxicants and gains of chance. Say, in both of them there is a great sin. 2. 219. And sin is prohibited in the following verse. Say, my Lord has only prohibited indecencies, those of them that are apparent as well as those that are concealed, and sin and rebellion without justice. 7. 33. Author. 24. Maruhuz Zahab, Volume 3, pg. 336. 25. Just as America is oppressing the brave Muslims today, while at the same time working in the fields of science and research, in the same way during the time of Bani Umayya and Bani Abbas, there were advances in cultural, scientific, and architectural fields. Since the present book is regarding the oppression on the Shias at the hands of Bani Umayya and Bani Abbas, the venerable author has not mentioned the above subject scientific and literary advancement. For the interest of the readers, we present below an extract from the book of Dr. Ali Akbar Vilayati, the Encyclopedia of Islam and Iran, Dynamics of Culture and the Living Civilization. After the period of conquests and victories when the Islamic government became stable and Muslims completed the collection of Islamic sciences to a great extent, some Abbasid caliphs patronized various arts and sciences. Under their patronage, the Islamic society became gradually inclined to those sciences and arts which were practiced by non-Muslim civilizations. The source of this attention was Quran and traditions which encouraged people to learn the different arts and sciences. The greatest impetus for this movement was that the Muslims had annexed the countries practicing these arts and sciences. Like Iran and Rome, these countries were already having their ancient civilizations. But since Alexander the Great had attacked these places 1,000 years earlier, there was influence of Greek culture also upon them. Along with other civilizations, the experience of cultural exchange with the Greek civilization was a completely new experience. As a result of this cultural exchange, there was such an increase of interest in translation of books by the Muslim rulers and intellectuals that this period came to be known as the Age of Translation. Though translation began in the Period of Bani Umayyah, its fruits were obtained in the period of Bani Abbas. During the Umayyad period, most of the translations were of books on military, politics, and economics. These translations served as a bridge of communication between the rulers and non-Arabs. The movement, which left behind a large number of translated books on history, sociology, and science, began in the Abbasid period. This intellectual movement continued for 200 years. Especially in the period of Mansur, translations were made in two styles, literal and idiomatic. In the beginning, translation was carried out from Persian to Arabic. The translators of these books were Zoroastrians who had recently embraced Islam. Some books of literature like Qalila wa Dimna were translated by the Iranian writer, Abdullah ibn Muqaffa, died in 141 AH. In the later period, Muslim translators developed this skill to a high level. Based on their experience in this field, they also translated Greek and Syriac books into Arabic. During this period, the first great translator was the Nestorian physician Hunayn ibn Ishaq, who was an expert of Greek, Syriac, Arabic and Pahlavi languages. He was known as the Sheikh of translators. He constituted a group under which translation was carried out in a systematic and organized manner. His son, Ishaq, and his nephew, Habish ibn Asim, were also present. Hunayn compared the translations from the originals and made corrections, etc. Depending on the interest of respective Abbasid caliphs and other factors, there were variations in the number of translators and subject of translation from time to time, especially during the period of Harun ar-Rashid, when the movement of translation could be summed up as follows. A. Period of Harun ar-Rashid. All the translations of this period were centered on scientific books. Yahya ibn Khalid Barmiki made special efforts to recruit competent translators. During the period of Harun, whichever city was conquered by the Muslims, its whole library was transferred to Baghdad. For example, books on philosophy and experimental sciences of Greek, the Book of Euclid, Almagest, and books of Indian medicine were all translated into Arabic in this period. B. Period of Mamun Rashid. During the period of Mamun, on the basis of different interpretations of the Quran, debates and discussions on scholastic theology were at their zenith. During this period, many books of philosophy were translated into Arabic and published. C. Period after Mamun. During the period of Mutawakkil, the work of translation continued. For example, Hunayn ibn Ishaq remained busy in translation, but when Mu'tasim transferred his capital from Baghdad to Samarra, there was a change on translation activities. The main reason for this change was the decrease in the importance of Bayt al-Hikmah, which at that time was the most important intellectual organization. D. End of the translation movement. After being successful for 200 years, the translation movement of Baghdad began to decline, and in the beginning of the new Gregorian millennium, it ended completely. Although the end of the movement does not mean that people lost interest in the sciences that had already been translated or that there were less translators. To some extent, the end of this movement was because of the lack of subjects in source languages. In other words, this movement had lost its social importance. Lack of subjects does not mean that other non-religious Greek books were not available, but it meant that there were no more books which were of interest to the intellectuals of this movement. Because most of the arts and sciences have already been dealt in the books which have already been published, and they were better than the books of Greek. The translators who had founded this movement of translation, now instead of supervising the work of translation, began the work of compilation. Due to the stability of the Islamic government and the intellectual advancement of the Islamic society, there were established scientific societies. These societies performed an important role in the dissemination of sciences and arts. The first intellectual organization of this type was Bayt al-Hikmah in Baghdad. It was established under the patronage of the government and operated on the grant fixed by the government. It was the center for researchers and translators, especially competent translators who can translate books of Greek philosophy into Arabic. Bayt al-Hikmah, which was the first library of Muslims, was established by Harun, although the work of translation had begun in the age of Mansur. During the Abbasid period, When the books of Greek philosophy were translated into Arabic, the world of Islamic beliefs fell into turmoil. Then to oppose those beliefs, scholastic theology was developed due to which the Islamic beliefs did not retain their original simplicity. Tawhid now was just a problem of scholastic theology, and also due to the interference in religion by people with political interest. The view proclaiming that all the companions were just came to the fore, and if a defect or mistake of a companion was seen, it was justified to be a mistake of jurisprudence. Al-Awasim min al-Qawasim. In a letter dated the 27th of May 1937, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru wrote to his daughter, Indira Gandhi. These letters were published in book form under the title of Glimpses of World History. The Abbasids were terrific lawmakers. According to common standards, their kingdom was very vast. Where was that old fervor of faith and practical enthusiasm that conquered the mountains and spread like jungle fire to burn up everything? Neither simplicity survived nor that democratic system of governance, and the caliph was not much different from the Iranian emperors whom the Arabs had defeated earlier, or the kings of Constantinople. The Arabs of the period of the Prophet possessed that strange power and life that even the armies of the kings could not face. During the world of their time, they were dignified and always ready to offer sacrifices. And when they rose like a storm and moved forward like hurricane, even the huge armies of the kings fled from their way. The common people were fed up with those rulers, whereas the Arabs brought the message of social reform and public well-being, so they were welcome in every country they conquered. Now such circumstances existed no more. Now the dwellers of the desert enjoyed the luxuries of palace life and fed on the most delicious foods. When their life was a bed of roses, why should they worry about social revolution and reform? They tried to excel the ancient kingdoms in opulence and extravagance. In this process they also became addicted to some of their bad habits. One of their such customs was to confine women to the homes. Now the capital was shifted from Damascus to Iraq. This change of the seat of government was in itself an important factor, because Baghdad was the resting place of the Iranian kings. In addition to this, it was in comparison to Damascus more distant from Europe, as if the Abbasids were more attentive to Asia than they were to Europe. There remained the great struggle for Constantinople and many wars with the European nations. But all these wars were generally of defensive nature. The age of the conquests was not over. Therefore, the Abbasid caliphs desired to strengthen and firm up all that remained of their dominions. Also, without Spain and Africa, it was already a huge kingdom. You must have remembered well the name of Baghdad. That same Baghdad of Harun ar-Rashid and Scheherazade, whose amazing stories are mentioned in Arabian Nights. The city that gained prominence during the Abbasid rule was this same city of Arabian Nights, Baghdad. It was a huge city consisting of palaces, government offices, schools and colleges, big malls, gardens, and parks, etc. The traders of Baghdad carried out extensive trade with the countries of the East and the West. A large number of government officials kept a close watch on the happenings in even far-off places. The system of governance was becoming more complex, and it comprised of many departments. There was a perfect postal system in practice which connected every corner of the kingdom to the seat of government. There were a large number of hospitals. People from all over the world visited Baghdad. It was especially of interest to scholars, students of various sciences and artisans, because it was well known that the caliph accorded great importance to every intellectual and expert artist. The caliph himself led a life of luxury and opulence. A crowd of slaves surrounded him, and his harem was always full of women. From the aspect of apparent opulence and wealth, the Abbasid kingdom was at the peak during the rule of Harun ar-Rashid from 786 to 809 AD. Ambassadors from the Emperor of China and King Charles of the West visited the court of Harun ar-Rashid. In other words, Baghdad and the Abbasid kingdom was much ahead of all the countries of Europe in the art of governance, commerce, and intellectual advancement, except for Spain, which was also ruled by Arabs Bani Umayyah. We are especially interested in the Abbasid period because it created a new awareness for scientific development. You know that in the modern world, science is very important. We are too much in need of it, and we are indebted to it to a great extent. Science does not sit idle and pray for the arrival of inventions. It is concerned with the investigation to find how these things have come into existence. It conducts experiment after experiments. It makes repeated efforts. Sometimes it fails and sometimes it is successful. In this way it goes on expanding the knowledge of man. This present age of ours is very much different from the ancient or the medieval age. All this happened because of science. In fact, the modern world is a creation of science. In the ancient age, science was not pursued so much, neither in Egypt nor in China or India. However, it was discussed to some extent in ancient Greece. After that, not even its traces are found in Rome. But the spirit of investigation and experimentation was present in the Arabs. Therefore, it is very much true when we say that they were pioneers of modern science. In some subjects like medicine and mathematics, they learnt many things from India. A large number of Indian medics and mathematicians had reached Baghdad, and many Arab students came to study in the Takshila University, which was still a great institution at that time, and was particularly famous for medical education. Sanskrit texts on medicine and other subjects were specially translated into Arabic. The Arabs learnt many techniques from China, like that of paper making, and they developed and perfected the techniques they learnt from others. They also invented many gadgets for the first time, like the telescope and the magnetic compass, etc. The Arab doctors were renowned in the whole Europe for their expertise in medical field. There is no doubt that Baghdad was the center of all those intellectual movements. Another center was Cordova, the capital of Arab Spain in the west. In addition to this, there were many other universities in the Arab world where the lamp of knowledge was alight, like Cairo, Basra, Kufa, etc. But Baghdad was paramount among them, regarding which an Arab historian writes that it was the capital of Islam, the favorite of Iraq, the seat of the government, a center of beauty and elegance, civilization and culture, and the fine arts. It had a population of more than 2 million, that is almost twice that of our present Calcutta or Bombay. You will be surprised to know that the rulers of Baghdad were the first to start wearing socks. Moza, the Indian term for socks, is derived from Arabic. In the same way, the French chamas is derived from Arabic kamis, shirt. Shirt and socks reached Constantinople from Arabia, and from there they were taken to Europe. The Arabs had always been great seamen. They always undertook long journeys by sea, and they established their colonies on the coasts of Africa, India, Malaysia, and even China. One of their famous sea travelers was al-Biruni, who visited India also. Like Huan Sang, he wrote about his travels. The Arabs were also historians, and our books and histories inform us a great deal about them. We all know that they wrote very interesting novels and stories. The novel of Ibn Saba is a creation of this period. Thousands of people must not even have heard the name of the Abbasid caliphs and their kingdom, but they must be knowing about Baghdad, the romantic city of the Arabian Nights. The world of fiction is more real and lasting than the world of real happenings. After the death of Harun ar-Rashid, the Arab kingdom fell into trouble. There was discord and confusion everywhere. Many provinces became independent, and the provincial governors became autocrats. The caliph became weak day by day. And a time arrived when the caliph had power only in the city of Baghdad and the surrounding villages. One caliph was even dragged out from the palace and killed by his sepoys. 26. pg. 109. 27. A mountainous region to the west of the city of Qazwin in the Gilan province of Iran. 28. Indirectly he was saying, "That is because I am a descendant of the Prophet, whereas you are not. Hence I am more closely related to him." 29. Tariq Kamil, Ibn Athir, Volume 5, pg. 90. Makatalat Talibayan, Abu al-Faraj Isfahani, pg. 465. 30. Such pseudo-scholars are prepared to sell away even the holy relics. 31. Tariq Kamil, printed in 1357 AH. Volume 4, pg. 191. 32. It is mentioned in the circumstances of revelation of Surah Kafirun that the Quraysh represented by Walid ibn Mughira, Oz ibn Wa'il, Aswad ibn Matlab and Umayyah ibn Khalaf approached the Messenger of Allah and suggested that the Meccan infidels and Muslims may live on friendly terms by sharing each other's method of worship. They proposed that Muslims worship their God one year and the infidels worship God of the Muslims another year. However, the Holy Prophet refused their proposal. 33. pg. 93. 34. This belief of ours is certified by the Holy Quran through the following verse. It is not meet for a mortal that Allah all should give him the book and the wisdom and prophethood, then he should say to men, be my servants rather than Allah's. 3. 79. The next verse says that it is possible that because of his perceived power a person can claim divinity. Only those persons who are blessed with faith and piety can keep themselves safe from this deviation. Author. 35. In the footnote to the 22nd problem. Ijtihad and Tiklid. 36. Ayan Shia, Volume 1, pg. 60. 37. This event, which occurred in Nishapur, clearly indicates how much the general public, and especially the Iranian public, were devoted to the purified imams. Despite the activities of the Abbasid caliphs to reduce the respect for the imams, they could not succeed in weaning the people away from devotion to the imams. Although they had taken Imam Rida, with a great respect, just to gain public support, Mamun issued secret orders that they must bring the imam through the route that passes through the cities where no Shia population was present. Therefore, he was taken through the route that did not have Shia population and even such places where the people did not even know who he was. It is noteworthy that though Mamun showed respect to Imam Rida, outwardly, he was always trying to undermine the status of the imam. That is why Imam Rida was not taken through Qom, which was the center of Shias. Also, he was not taken via Baghdad, which was the seat of caliphate and was not populated by only one sect. It was possible to bring Imam from there, but there was danger that an atmosphere could have developed against Mamun's caliphate. That is why he was not brought through Baghdad. In the same way, he was not taken through Kufa. They brought him through unknown routes and finally reached Nishapur. The caliph was not expecting such a reception for the imam in a city like Nishapur, and that people would leave their homes and come out to greet the imam. When the imam's caravan reached Nishapur, people surged out to welcome him. All the men and women, young and old, were waiting to accord a grand welcome to Imam Rida. The scholars of that city also came out to extend a sincere welcome. The chief scholar of this place begged the imam to allow him to hold the rein of the imam's camel, and this honor was granted. The people requested the imam to give them something which would remain as a memento, so that after he goes away, it would remain with them forever, and that memento could be nothing but a tradition, which they can write down from him directly. It is well known that at that time, 12,000 gold pen stands came out to note what the imam was going to say. To say that this hadith is called chain of gold silsilat ad-dahab because of this, is wrong. It is called chain of gold because all the narrators of this hadith are infallible imams. Since Nishapur was the center of people who were attached to traditions, they requested the imam to narrate a hadith to them. It is written that when Imam Rida looked out from the camel saddle, the people saw his countenance and remarked, "Your face and appearance is just like that of the Messenger of Allah." Thus, there was increase in the excitement of the people. After that, the imam addressed them and said, "I heard from my respected father who heard from his respected father from Holy Prophet from Jibreel from the Almighty Allah that he said, the statement of, there is no God except Allah is my fort. Whoever enters this fort is safe from my chastisement." Ostad Shahid Mutahari, Maktal-e-Mutahar, Matbua Jaim. Talamat-e-Islami, Pakistan. 38. Saying, Allahu Akbar, meaning, God is the greatest. 39. In his book, A Story History of the Saracens. 40. Nero was the emperor of Rome in 54 AD. His name is synonymous with brutality, viciousness and hedonism. He was very fond of poetry and jokes. He also sang and acted on the stage. In 64 AD he subjected Rome to arson and blamed the Christians for it. He either burned those Christians to death or threw them into lion cages as a public sport. It is said that, when Rome was burning, he was playing the lute. In 67 AD, after a military coup when the Senate sentenced him, Nero committed suicide. 41. Saddam had also imposed restriction on the ziyarat of Imam Hussein, a. Now that Saddam is dead, it was seen that on Chelam Arba'in 40th day on 2nd February 2008, the surging crowd of more than 7 million visitors were chanting, "Oh, Zahra, we have not forgotten your Hussein. The power that rules over the hearts of the people can never be destroyed."